Hello everybody, welcome back to Ultimate Prisma course. So today in this video we are going to learn everything you need to know in order to start your first project in Prisma. So if you follow this video, then you can able to create your first project with me. So do you know what is Prisma? So Prisma is a next level Node.js ORM. So it's a typeset, so it's a super cool. So the most important thing in Prisma, like you can able to create table and you can able to relationship. So the relationship is a super confusing for beginners. So but in Prisma, so you can do very easily. So how easy, I'll show you, but you can take a look. So let's say you would like to create a social media, so where will be user will have a profile, and then a user can able to post to also have a category. So category will be belongs to this post. So I'm not gonna explain right now, but we'll come this picture once again, and that's the introduction of Prisma, but we'll learn throughout this video. So just stick around with me, and also don't forget to subscribe my channel because it's give me a lot of motivation to create such a content. All right everybody, here is my empty project, nothing is here. Now I'd like to create a Express server. So in order to create a Express server, we have to generate our Node.js project. So let's try to generate. So you know how to generate. So you just need to type npx and then init and -y. So this will generate. So it says like it's not running, so it should not be npx. So npm npm. All right. So as you can see, my package.json has been generated. So Prisma tutorial and everything. So now I'd like to install some packages. So in order to start our project, so how I can install. So let's I'm going to use Yearn. So Yearn and Express, and also I'm gonna be use Prisma. So Prisma, something like that. And let's see. So and now I can see it will be installed very soon. And let's try to create a folder here. So I'm going to create a folder. This folder called should be index. So in order to query our database, so here is the index.js, and okay, that's cool. And here is package.json. So everything has been installed, and then what we need basically, okay, so this is done, and afterwards we can do like Prisma init. So npx, so npx Prisma init and data source. So we have to provide the data source. So what is the data source? So data source should be like provider, and let's say SQLite, or we are going to use Postgres basically. So now I'm going to use Postgres. Okay, so this will be generate. So right now I think I did mistake somewhere. Okay. Alright, so now it is working because there was an issue so in my typo, but now it is working basically. So now as you can see, here is generated some folder. So now we are going to go for is folder and trying to explain how it's work. So we have created index earlier, and then here is the Prisma file. So it's inside the Prisma file there is a number one file that's called schema.prisma. So this is our schema.prisma. So here is a provider MySQL, but we are going to use Postgres anyway. Okay, so you can use MongoDB as well, but all right, so the thing now we are going to do, so we have done these things. .env is file is generated. So here is there. So okay, cool. And this is the client for Prisma client. So whenever you want to query, let's say you would like to query the index.js, then you have to use Prisma client, or later whenever we'll be using Next.js project, so you can use this Prisma client anywhere in your project to query from database. So this is so cool, and we'll learn these things, but the thing I'd like to explain it. So it's a Prisma client, and this is the data source. That means you can define your database. So what will be your database dialect? Like if you want to use SQLite, then you can say that will be SQLite. And the URL env, so it's coming from env file. So you can see here is the database URL. So here you need to give the database URL name. So for our case, so Postgres database, just like this, and the name should be like Arif Hossain, my name. So and here the password should be password, something like that, and localhost, and yeah, so I'm going to use 3 and 32. Okay, this one I guess. Okay, and the database name should be, so will be create a database here. So how to install Postgres database. So I would like to recommend you to watch this video in whole, or you need to go to my channel here if you was Node.js SQLized ORM. So I have explained here. So you just need to type Postgres and then go to the Postgres website, and afterwards you have to download the database from here. So you'll see the option according to your device. So for me, I'm using Mac, so you can see here the Mac, but if you are Windows user, it really doesn't matter, so you can configure it. But after configure it, then you have to type, but you can watch any video or any online resources, so in order to set up the database in your local machine. All right, so let's come back here. And right now what we need to do, so let's enter the database. So PSQL, that means we're in PSQL database. So let's try to create a database. So in order to create database, we just need to type create database name, and the database name should be, let's say Prisma, something like Prisma 2, and then semicolon. Okay, so our database has been created. This is our database name. So if we want to enter this database, so let me just configure it. All right, so Postgres, and then database name should be here, something like this. So our database configuration setup is done. Now what we want to do right away, so let's go to the schema.prisma file, and most of the thing we have to do from here. So this is very important. This file is very important. You have to remember it, and it's auto generated. Now let's say now we are going to create 5 tables in our application. So let's come here, schema.prisma file. So schema.prisma file, first of all, let's learn how to one-to-one relationships work. And also we are going to, so in order to create our model, so we just need to type model, something like that, and then we have to give the user, and then here curly bracket you can define. So let's say first of all every user have a ID, so let's say ID, and ID should be integer. As you can see here, I'm getting suggestion, and also ID should be unique. So you can say is ID should be, so ID something like that, and default you can say like auto increment, something like that. So for each user, whenever a new user will create an account, then automatically ID will be increment automatically. You don't need to anything about it. So right now if I save it, so then as you can see, okay, I think it is okay. So after saving, so let's see, I'm going here and save it. It's automatically formatting after saving. So if I just do it, so how I have achieved this thing, so I have installed extension, so that is where it's working. So after install, what you need to do, you have to go to the settings. So inside the settings, so you have to go to users, and here, so in JSON, so you have to format on shape 2, and also you have to try Prisma default format. So this line of code, so if you type this line of code and if you paste it in your setting file, then that will be work fine. All right, so this is what I've done, and then we need to email for each user in order to registration in our application. So email should be a string, and also remember, every email we want to be unique. So that is why there is an option to define database every email should be unique, something like that. So here is the unique, and also user will have name, something like that. Name should be string, and also user will have some rule, but will define rule later. So save it, but string is not working. That means it should be capital. Okay, so here is our user, and let's say each user will have a profile. So let's define profile in another table. So here we can say model, and here we can say model. So model and profile, right? So profile, so inside the profile here also have an ID, something like this. So here is I'm getting auto suggestion, and afterwards every profile will have an bio, so to define who you are basically. So it is a string, and that's it. And then how you can connect these things. So now comes the one-to-one relationship. So you know, so here each user has each profile. So how they recognize everything in your database. So whenever you want to query, let's say you have sign up a social media application right now, you have accounts this information, but how you can update this info. So somehow you need to make a relationship between these two tables, right? So how you can do this thing? So here is comes one-to-one relationship. So in one-to-one relationship you can do it very easily. So for example, you can say here is the profile, so just like this. So inside the user, so you just need to type, let's say profile, something like that, and also you have to type this profile. So you just need to copy and paste it, and also you have to give the question mark afterwards. So you have to pass here inside the profile model. So let's say you'd like to type user here, and then user coming from this user also. So just type it here. So I'm type, okay, this user, and this user at the rate, you have to type relation. So here you have to define the field, so which field will be in your relationship ID. So let's say I would like to say profile ID, something like that, or user ID, so whatever you want. So I'm going to say user ID, and that's it. Afterwards we have to pass a reference. So here is the reference. So reference should be ID, so just like this. So ID, and we have to create this user ID inside this, sorry, so we have to create this user ID here. So user ID should be integer and also unique, so we can pass the unique. So that means this profile will get here, so one-to-one relationship. So user ID will be this user, so and reference is ID. So it's called one-to-one relationship. So if I save it, so then it is automatically formatted. So this is done one-to-one relationships. Now we are going to learn. So this is how basically one-to-one relationships work. So now we are going to learn how to one-to-many relationships work. So let's say user can post a lot of posts. So user have ability to post 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, many more. So that means one-to-many relationships. So in order to do these relationships, we need to make a post model. So we just need to type post model, and then we have to post something like that. So inside the post model, so what we need, so basically we need ID, so as I told you, and afterwards what we need, so post should be created at, so created at something like that. So here we just need just like this. So created at should be date and time, date, and afterwards what we need, so date time should be default, so at the rate default, and here we need to pass in like now function, and then afterwards post will have a title, so title should be string, and also publish type, so publish type, let's say publisher, not publisher, so publish, so published is true or false, something like that, so it should be boolean. And here also we can say default, so default should be false. So we can basically pass default, actually how will be our database, the first case. So later we can also send by query, but okay. Here is published done. So afterwards also post have an author name, something like that. So author should be like author, so author should be user. So and then if I save it and it's not working, so I said it will be automatically make the relationship. So author user relationship user ID, reference should be ID. So here is the user, so we make user ID, so here, so let's make a user ID, so user ID, so user ID should be integer and unique, and here I'm getting error, so default, so why I'm getting error, so here ID at the rate default, okay, but let's see, save it. Auto increment is a function, but I'm missing somehow, and here is the error behind the field author in model post. So okay, so we need to model here. So now here we have to define the post model in user, because this user will have one-to-many relationship. So post something like that, so post, and just like this. So if I save it, so I can see there is no error, so that means it's working like this. So you have to, whenever you want to make a one-to-many relationship, so you just need to type the table name. So this table will be many relationships, so this table, for example, this post table, so post table you have to type the inside the user table, just this the post, and this post, and afterwards the is called third bracket, something like this. So this is working like one-to-many relationships. So now we are going to learn how to you can use many-to-many relationship. For example, each post has a category, and each category has a lot of posts, so it could be anything, so a lot of posts. So how it could achieve these things, so let's say you can use a post category, so model, and category, something like that. So inside the category, so you can say id, so id integer, of course unique, and id you have to pass, also you have to give default, auto increment, something like that. So this is super cool, guys. So if you install all the extension, you'll get suggestions, so you can type yourself very easily, no way. So afterwards, so category will have a name. So for example, name should be string, and then you have to define the many to many relationship. So now we'll be implement many to many relationships. So it's quite simple. So what we need to do, so we just need to create another table in order to create many to many relation. So let's create another model. So model, so the model name should be category post, something like that. So inside the category model, so I have to define post. So here we have to define all relation. So let's say we define post. Post will be an relation with post. So here is our post model. So so that we need to type here like post, something like that, at the rate relation, and here we have to define fields. So fields should be post id and reference should be id. Afterwards we have to define post id, basically this post id. So we can say like that, or we just use this integer, but as you know, we can also use attribute. So to use attribute, you have to type at the rate 2 times, and then inside here you can say like id, and you can pass the array, so like this. So you can pass here the post id and something like that. Okay, so afterwards we have to pass in here category. So category should be category, something like that, and this will be a relation. So here is the same thing, it's the category id and this is id. So we can copy this category id and we can pass here. And here category post will have something called assign by. So assign by someone name, so assign it and then by. So assign it by is string, and we can also define here date. So like assign it at, so the date and time, so date time. Okay, so date time we can define here, and we can say here now function. Okay, cool. So date time, so we have to say date time. Afterwards here default, so default. Okay, and that's it. So now see, error is gone. So this one is missing, that means we have to say category id is a integer something like that. So hope that everything will be workable, and see it is working, but we have to pass somewhere. So as you can see, it is automatically many to many relationship. Whenever you save it, then it will automatically generate if you just pass the all reference and relation. So as you can see, category post, and also post. So this pass, so our many to many relation is done. So now time to migrate and migration in our database. So in order to migration, what you need, so you just need to one command. As you can see, you have to just type npx prisma migrate dev. So that means dev, and the name of migration, let's say migration, something like that. If we hit enter, and then that will be migrate our database. So let's see. So we database is yes, Yes, that means we have something in. Yeah, so reset cancel. Okay, so we want to reset basically, so we have to say yes. That means we have something in our database, so that we have stored, but in your case, so you will not see this thing. So yeah, our migration is done. So afterwards, as you can see here, generated Prisma client as well. So in node modules, Prisma client, so that means you can able to query from your database, so like using this index.js folder file, sorry. So inside this file you can query, you can create, you can read everything. So now we are going to show you how you can create user. So let's take our database and see is model is exist. So PSQL, and here is, so our database name is C, and then Prisma 2, something like that. So our connected to C database table. As you can see, here is our category post, profile, user, and Prisma migration. So our migration is done, so everything is pushed in our database. So if we just want to see something, let's say we'd like to see user. So now I'm just select, and then if I'm trying to see user, then maybe I cannot see, just because of, so there is no data at all. So as you can see, there is a one row, a zero column, but no data, so I cannot see any data. So now we would like to use Prisma client in order to send data, in order to create user. So let's see how we can use.